Hey friends, welcome back to SewlyJo. Today I'm sharing a breezy little project that pairs perfectly with a floppy sun hat we made last week. I used a free sleeveless top pattern from Angela Kane's website, and let me tell you, it's a gem. Simple, stylish, and perfect for summer. If you love easy to follow patterns and wearable DIY fashion, this one's for you. Here's what you'll need: lightweight woven fabric, Angela Kane's free sleeveless top pattern, links in the description, basic sewing tools such as scissors, pins, and sewing machine. The pattern prints easily at home. I use the size closest to my measurements, and if you like, you can add a little bit of extra ease for comfort. Let's get into the construction. So we have this one front facing and two back facing, and two back bodice pieces and one front bodice piece which was cut on the fold. I added a 1 inch strip of interfacing. I use medium weight, but you can use lightweight. I didn't have any at the time, on both the front bodice and back bodice pieces. Now I'm going to close up the darts on the front piece. So I'm going to match up the dart legs and I'm going to pin them together. Then I'm going to use a short stitch length and I'm going to sew the two darts on the front bodice piece. Make sure to mark the end of your dart. That way you won't go beyond where you need to sew. So just watch me put it together and then I'm going to sew it up. The darts are now sewn and pressed towards the bottom of the bodice. So now I'm going to place the front and back pieces right sides together, matching at the shoulder and pin. And I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew across the shoulders using the 5/8 seam allowance. After sewing, I will press the seams open and finish the edges using a zigzag stitch. If you have a serger, you can serge the ends, so you can have a nice clean finish. Next, I'm going to place the facings right sides together, and I'm going to pin at the shoulder and sew across, press open, and finish the edges as I did for the bodice sections. Now I'm going to place the bodice piece right sides up and match it together with the facing pieces right sides together, and we're going to match the shoulders and around the neckline because we're going to sew around the neckline. So make sure that the seams match up nicely and everything is nice and flat, and we're going to pin in place and sew around the neckline. After I completed sewing the neckline, I'm now adding some slits in the seam allowance and trimming the seam at the shoulders a bit just to reduce bulk. The slits is so that the fabric will spread nicely when I turn it over and press around the neckline, so we have a nice crisp neckline finish. So that's the purpose of the slits. After you finish doing that and you turn over, you're going to top stitch on the facing side but very close to the original seam, and this is what they call the understitching. This will help the material to lay flat and neat when you turn over. I also just want to point out that I am not a seamstress. I just thought I should make a top to go along with my hat that I made previously. So if I'm doing anything wrong or you have better ideas and tips to share, you can feel free to do so in the comments. I just thought this would be a quick and easy little tutorial for me to do, and yeah, I decided to try it and I am pretty satisfied with the way it turned out. So if you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe for more DIY projects. Depending on how this turns out, maybe I'll do a few more wearable pieces and we'll see how that goes, because I thoroughly enjoyed making this little sleeveless top, but I know that it's something very kind of on the simple side to make, and things can get real complicated and technical. So we'll see about that. So now I'm going to finish up the armhole. So I pressed everything nicely. I turned it wrong sides out, and I'm pinning the armhole together, around the armhole together, and I'm going to sew up the armhole to the bodice and the facing armhole area together. I'm going to do that on both sides. Then I'm going to understitch again on the facing side, but you won't be able to get the entire armhole. So what you're going to do is understitch as far as you can get. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so after sewing up the armhole and the neckline, I'm now going to pull the two back bodice pieces through the shoulder section, and so that we can turn everything right sides out. So you can take your time and make sure and pull it through nicely without forcing it or causing any tearing or so on, but I think the shoulder space is wide enough to get it through easily. So once I have everything out, I'm just going to give it a nice press so that everything lays nice and flat. And then we're going to sew up the sides. So we're going to make sure that we turn everything wrong sides out, and then we're going to match up the sides and pin. Make sure that you pull up the facing and match it up. Match the seam underneath the facing so that everything matches neatly, and pin and sew down using the suggested seam allowance. I believe it's 5/8. So I'm going to pin everything nicely, and then I'm going to stitch down the two sides to close up. You can also use a zigzag stitch to finish the side seams and the bottom edge before you close up the sides, or if you prefer to do it after, it's up to you. The side seams are now complete and pressed open. I also did a stitch in the ditch from the top of the armhole to just below the facing, just to hold the facing down so that it doesn't move around. So you can do that on both sides. We'll be using a button closure at the back of this sleeveless top. So let's finish the top section that will be left open. So we're going to turn the facing right sides together with the back bodice, and we're going to match the raw edge and stitch down up to the end of the facing. Then we're going to trim, turn over and press. You repeat for the other side of Okay, let's close up the back. So match up the top edge and make sure it is even and neat, and then we're going to continue from under where we just finished stitching to the bottom edge. So we're going to pin and we're going to continue that stitching straight down to the bottom. After you finish stitching the back closed, you will finish the raw edges using a simple zigzag stitch, and then you're going to press that open and we're going to move on to finishing the hem. So I completed the sewing of the back seam. I also finished the edges with a zigzag stitch. And for the hemline, I folded up 1.5 inches, and I also finished that bottom edge with a zigzag stitch before I blind hem stitched with my sewing machine. So this is what my hem looks like, well stitched, and everything is looking neat and professional. I also added a button to the top of the top to close it, and I made a kind of a loop using thread to close the button, so I can pull the top together as I'm showing you here. Nothing fancy, just simple. You can use a different mechanism if you like, but that's what I use, and this is what I have. I am pretty pleased with this. I love how this pairs with the floppy hat. It's giving effortless summer vibes. You can dress it up with accessories or keep it casual for beach days and errands. The fit is relaxed and the neckline is flattering. The whole look feels pulled together without trying too hard. If you try this pattern, let me know in the comments or tag me at SewlyJo on Instagram. I'd love to see your version. And if you haven't made a floppy hat as yet, check out the tutorial next. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more sewing tutorials, DIY fashion, and creative inspiration. See you next time.